Welcome back. We want to introduce you to our esteemed media panel this morning. Joining us on Action News Sunday is Gene Wexler with WOKV, Tonya Weathersbee with the Florida Times-Union, and Fred Matthews. He's a blogger for Examiner.com. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us.
Hi.
Hey,
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a number of new developments in the Brunswick baby murder case this week. We've had a couple of family members of one of the suspects arrested and also a city commissioner. Let's go through each one of you and just hear your thoughts on the latest developments.
Well, Tara, the city commissioner thing is pretty surprising. You wonder what were his motives. How does he know the family? He says he's related to DeMarquise Elkins. You guys have footage of him talking with the family outside of the courthouse. I think this is something we're going to see develop throughout the coming weeks, just what role he's going to play in this.
Well, one of the first things you learn, and he should know this, since we now know that he has a criminal history himself, is that you shut up. Everybody in this case should have shut up. The mother and daughter, the mother and sister, all of them should have been quiet and let this thing pass. But especially since we also know, and they had to know, that they had a part in this crime. None of what has happened to them will take away from the heinous crime that has been perpetrated. None of it. A child has been killed. The mother has been injured. We have 2 suspects in custody. Everybody else becomes collateral damage to this. And, of course, the criminal justice system in Brunswick will play out just like it does here in Jacksonville.
All I have to say about it is that this is a tragedy all the way around. You have a baby who was shot, and we don't know what the verdict is ultimately going to be, but you have a baby that was shot, who died a horrifically painful death, and you have these 2 young guys who, for all intents and purposes, if it turns out that they are found guilty, their lives are over. And it's a tragedy all the way around. What's also tragic is that if you look at the background of the people in their family and the criminal histories and everything, it's further reflection of how we have so many kids growing up surrounded by criminality, surrounded by things that give them all these negative influences, and they're so socially isolated until they're not even embarrassed or worried about being ostracized at the thought that they killed a baby. I mean, they killed a baby. In the past, if you killed a baby, that would be enough for you to be embarrassed and not want to do something like that because everybody knows you as a baby killer. So that is really, really sad, and you know, I hope in the end that the justice system, everything plays itself out the way it should, because it's sad, and you know, more needs to be done. And
at the heart of this is the gun. At the heart of this is a gun. How did he get the gun? Who kept the gun? And of course, they threw the gun away. In this society in which we're debating guns, how did this kid get the gun? Why does he have the gun? How did he get the bullets for it? Those are questions that I think are interesting in light of the present-day debate.
Absolutely.
Fred, one thing, though, I want to put out there is, you know, he had the gun, but I think it's going to come full circle. We don't know why he did it. You know, initially it came out maybe there's gangs. We're talking about gang problems in Brunswick, Georgia. Is it a problem? Is it a growing problem? We still don't know what made him allegedly go out with this other kid and shoot the baby. Were they really after money? Were they trying to kill the baby? What was the real motive? And I think the difference between a case like this and the Trayvon Martin case is because, you know, people know what happened, you know, as far as George Zimmerman saw him, he's the neighborhood watch, he followed him for whatever reason, that's being debated. But here we don't know why there was a confrontation. And with the other case of Trayvon, we know that there was a confrontation based on who they were. George wasn't sure who Trayvon Martin was. But here we want to know, or at least it would be interesting to know, what allegedly caused this to happen.
Well, I think in the end we'll find out several things, unless there's some huge conspiracy going on. It was probably nothing more than the robbery that was perpetrated, and we have 2 young kids who didn't have very much sense, as we know. Teenagers don't have very much sense at 17 and 14, 15 years old. They tried a robbery, it didn't work. Now, unless there's something new here, and that's there, I mean, it's not going to be that complicated. But none of that will take away from the tragedy that's in place. A child has been killed, a gun was at the heart of this murder, and we have other people who apparently have facilitated the crime.
But also,
go ahead, Tonya.
Also at the heart of it is we have to continue to examine how is it that we're rearing kids who apparently have no sense of consequences, no sense of conscience to even do something, if in fact it happened the way. I still believe there are a lot of unanswered questions out there, and it's going to come out in the in the next few days about who's really responsible for this. This is taking all kinds of twists and turns, but as Fred said, at the end of the day, a child has been killed, shot between the eyes, and that's almost unimaginable, really.
All right, let's move on to another big topic this week. The Supreme Court right now obviously debating gay marriage. What are your thoughts on what you think might be a ruling out of all of this?
Tara, I think a lot of the focus is going to turn to Anthony Kennedy. He's had some support for gay rights in the past. It seemed like he was questioning the Defense Against Marriage Act. It's not looking like at this point that we'll see an ultimate Supreme Court saying this is unconstitutional, this is not unconstitutional. However, we could likely see a ruling on the Defense of Marriage Act. And I think one of the things that should be pointed out here is that, you know, the Defense of Marriage Act basically does not give same-sex marriage couples the same rights that heterosexual marriage couples have. So when you have states that are allowing gay marriage, but the federal government doesn't give them the rights to marriage, there's a conflict there. And I think that eventually we'll see some sort of resolution with that conflict.
All right, quickly, Tonya and Fred, I'd like to hear what you have to say about this.
There seems to be some conflict from what I can gather from the comments made by Judge Scalia, although they were pro-comments from those that I heard from Judge Ginsburg. I think that the Supreme Court would rather have not had this case. I don't think they want it.
Tonya, what do you think?
I agree with Fred. I think the Supreme Court would rather not have had this case, and I wouldn't be surprised if they decide that they turn it back to the federal courts.
Okay, and really quickly from each one of you, I want to know, who do you think is going to win the NCAA tournament?
Oh, Tara, well, I DVR'd yesterday's game for Syracuse. I got my class ring here. Syracuse, go Syracuse. Sorry, Mike Bars, we beat you, Indiana, the other day.
Go Gators.
And I'll be happy with that.
Oh, Tonya, I love the Go Gators.
Go
Fred,
Gators.
Fred, what do you
Louisville.
think?
Louisville.
Okay.
Syracuse. Yeah.
All right, we'll have to see what happens. Thank you all three for joining us. And when we come back, a moment with Mike.